My name is Eleanor Harrison, a 70-year-old retired nurse from Minneapolis. For 30 years, I supported my daughter Rachel after her father died unexpectedly. Every Friday, I bought a lottery ticket, more ritual than hope. When that $10 million jackpot was announced, everything changed. Rachel transformed from the loving daughter I raised into someone unrecognizable, consumed by greed. The way her eyes gleamed when she screamed those words still haunts me. Before I continue, let me know where you're watching from, and please hit that like and subscribe button to support more stories about family, betrayal, and sweet, sweet justice. I wasn't always alone. James, my husband of 22 years, passed away from a sudden heart attack when Rachel was only 11. The morning it happened, we'd been planning our summer vacation to Lake Superior. By evening, I was a widow with a mortgage and a grieving child. Insurance helped initially, but the reality of single parenthood hit hard. I worked double shifts at Fairview Hospital, taking extra weekend hours to ensure Rachel had everything she needed. Those years blur together in my memory. The rushed breakfasts, falling asleep while helping with homework, the constant worry about money. My social life vanished. Dating seemed impossible with my schedule, and honestly no one could replace James. Instead, I poured everything into Rachel. She was brilliant straight A's debate team captain, a natural at anything she tried. Her college acceptance letters filled me with such pride I could barely contain it. Despite our limited means, we had traditions. Sunday brunches with homemade waffles, Christmas Eve hot chocolate while watching old movies, and Friday night lottery tickets, my one small indulgence. Rachel used to tease me about it. "Mom, you know the odds are 1 in 300 million, right?" she'd say, rolling her eyes as a teenager. I always gave the same answer. "It's not about winning, honey. It's about having permission to dream for a while." Rachel graduated from the University of Minnesota with honors, then earned her MBA. She met Philip at a corporate networking event, handsome, ambitious, from old money. Their wedding was lavish, beyond anything I could have afforded. I wore a dress I'd saved 3 months to buy and tried not to feel out of place among Philip's country club friends. The first few years of their marriage, Rachel stayed close. Weekly phone calls, monthly dinners. But subtle changes emerged. Comments about my apartment being quaint. Suggestions about more age-appropriate clothing. When Philip was promoted to senior vice president at his investment firm, they bought a sprawling house in Edina with 5 bedrooms and a pool. By the time I reached 65, arthritis was making 12-hour nursing shifts impossible. My retirement savings were modest. Healthcare doesn't pay what people think. When Rachel suggested I move in with them to save money, it seemed like a blessing. "We have plenty of space, Mom," she said. "The kids would love having you around." My grandchildren Tyler and Madison were 8 and 6 then. Energetic, affectionate, the lights of my life. The idea of seeing them daily was irresistible. I sold my furniture, donated most possessions, and moved into their guest suite. The first several months were harmonious. I cooked family dinners 3 times a week, helped with homework, and tended the garden. I contributed my Social Security checks toward household expenses, though Rachel insisted it wasn't necessary. Still, I refused to be a burden. Looking back, the warning signs were there. Rachel gradually adopted Philip's attitudes about money and status. Designer clothes became necessities. Vacations grew more extravagant. Their circle narrowed to people of similar wealth. When my old nursing colleague Doris visited, Rachel seemed embarrassed by our reminiscing about hospital cafeteria meals and bargain hunting. Despite these changes, our lottery ritual continued. Every Friday, I'd stop at Carson's Corner Market and purchase a ticket. Rachel and I would check the numbers together on Saturday mornings, laughing about what we'd do with millions. It was one of the few traditions that remained untouched by wealth, until that fateful Friday when everything I thought I knew about my daughter crumbled before my eyes. That Friday began ordinarily enough. May 15th. I remember because it was Madison's school play that evening. I had promised to make my special snickerdoodle cookies for the cast party afterward. By mid-afternoon, I realized we were out of cream of tartar. Rather than bother Rachel, who was working from home in her office, I decided to walk to Carson's Corner Market myself. The arthritis in my hip was flaring that day, making the 6-block walk painful but manageable. Carson's was nearly empty when I arrived. The owner, Gerald, greeted me warmly as always. Eleanor. Friday already? Ready for your lucky numbers. You know it, Gerald. This could be the week, I replied, our standard exchange. While waiting for my ticket, I gathered the cream of tartar and a few other items. When Gerald handed me the lottery ticket, I did what I always did, took out my blue ink pen and wrote Eleanor Harrison on the back. It was something my father had taught me long ago. Always identify what's yours. I carefully placed it in my wallet's center compartment. The walk back was more difficult, my hip protesting with each step. Halfway home, I encountered Rachel driving back from her tennis lesson. Mom, what are you doing out in this heat? She asked, pulling over. I explained about the cookies and showed her my shopping bag. You should have texted me. Get in, I'll drive you the rest of the way. During that short drive, Rachel noticed me wincing as I settled into the passenger seat. Hip acting up again? Did you get your lottery ticket at least? She asked. Of course. It's tucked safely in my wallet. Let me see it, she said, extending her hand. I want to check if you used the numbers from Madison's birthday this time. Without thinking twice, I handed her my wallet. She removed the ticket, glanced at it, then placed it in her purse. I'll keep it safe for you until tomorrow, she explained. You've got baking to do, and your wallet looks like it's about to burst. I didn't object. After all, this was our ritual, buying the ticket, checking it together. Rachel had never shown particular interest in keeping the ticket before, but it didn't seem significant at the time. That evening, Madison's performance as a sunflower in her school play was delightful. The cookies were a hit at the cast party. We returned home tired but happy, and I completely forgot about the lottery ticket nestled in Rachel's purse. Saturday morning, we gathered in the kitchen as usual. Philip was making his weekend specialty, Belgian waffles with fresh berries. Tyler and Madison were arguing good-naturedly about which cartoon to watch. Rachel sat at the kitchen island with her coffee, scrolling through her phone. Suddenly she gasped. Mom! Mom! The jackpot! Someone in Minneapolis won the $10 million jackpot. Well, it certainly wasn't us, I laughed. We never win. Wait, let me check our numbers, she said, pulling up the lottery website. What happened next seems almost dreamlike in retrospect. Rachel's eyes widened. She checked the numbers again, then fumbled for her purse, extracting our ticket with trembling hands. Mom, she whispered, her voice barely audible. These are the winning numbers. The kitchen fell silent. Philip abandoned his waffle iron. The children stopped bickering. That's not possible, I said. Check again. She did, reading each number aloud while I watched the screen. 6 numbers, all matching. We won, Rachel said, her voice rising. We won $10 million. What followed was chaos, screaming, jumping, hugging. Philip popped open champagne despite it being barely 9 a.m. The children, not fully understanding but caught in the excitement, danced around the kitchen island. Rachel kept repeating, Our lives are going to change forever. In that moment of joy, I felt only gratitude. My careful saving had secured Rachel's education, but I couldn't provide the luxuries she now enjoyed through Philip. This windfall meant security for my grandchildren, for myself in my final years. I can't believe it, I kept saying. After all these years of playing. Rachel hugged me tightly. You deserve this, Mom. All those years of struggling, of taking care of me. We're going to take care of you now. No more worrying about money ever. I went to bed that night filled with contentment, making mental lists of modest dreams now within reach. A small house of my own again, perhaps. Travel to see James's sister in Arizona. Donations to the hospital's pediatric ward. But by Sunday morning something had shifted. Rachel was on her phone constantly, speaking in hushed tones with Philip. When I mentioned calling the lottery commission on Monday, she was oddly dismissive. I'll handle all that, Mom. Don't worry about the details. By Sunday evening, they were discussing house renovations, luxury cars, and a second home in Florida, without any mention of my involvement. When I gently reminded Rachel that we should discuss our plans together, her response chilled me. Well, technically, Mom, I was holding the ticket. Possession is 9/10 of the law, right, Philip? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Philip nodded, not meeting my eyes. The paperwork will be complicated enough without multiple claimants. But, I began. It's not like we won't take care of you, Rachel interrupted. You'll still live here. Nothing will change for you. Except everything already had. I went to bed that night with an uneasy feeling that the ticket I'd purchased, with my money, with my consistent numbers, was somehow no longer mine in my daughter's eyes. By Monday morning, the transformation in Rachel was undeniable. She'd always been fashion conscious, but she emerged from her bedroom looking like she'd stepped from a magazine cover, hair perfectly styled, wearing a designer outfit I'd never seen before. Going somewhere special? I asked, preparing breakfast for the children as usual. Meeting with an attorney about the lottery claim, she replied, not quite meeting my eyes. Philip already left for the office. He's arranging for a financial advisor. Shouldn't I come along? It's my ticket after all. Rachel's expression hardened momentarily before she forced a smile. Not necessary, Mom. It's just preliminary stuff. Besides, Madison needs you to help with her science project today. Before I could protest, she was gone. The sound of her luxury SUV purring down the driveway. I stood in the kitchen, spatula in hand, feeling strangely displaced in what had become my home. That afternoon, while helping Madison build her solar system model, I overheard Rachel and Philip in their home office. I hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but Madison had gone to the bathroom, and their voices carried through the partially open door. We need to start thinking about more permanent arrangements, Philip was saying. 10 million after taxes is still over 6 million. We could buy her a nice condo. She'll expect more than that, Rachel replied. You know how she is. How who is? Philip asked. Mom. She already mentioned this morning that it's her ticket. As if she wouldn't be living here on our charity if we hadn't taken her in. My hand flew to my mouth to stifle a gasp. Charity? After everything I'd sacrificed? Well, Philip continued, his voice dropping lower, technically, possession of the ticket is what matters legally. Has she mentioned whether she wrote her name on it? There was a pause. No, and I didn't notice anything. It doesn't matter anyway. She has no proof she bought it. We just need to get her settled somewhere else before we make any major changes here. Getting rid of the old burden, Philip said with a chuckle that turned my blood cold. Madison returned then, pulling me back to Neptune and Saturn, but my hands shook so badly I could barely help her with the glue. These people discussing me weren't strangers. They were my daughter and son-in-law, the family I'd given everything for. The next morning, I approached Rachel directly. She was in the kitchen, looking at countertop samples spread across the island. Rachel, we need to talk about the lottery ticket. She barely looked up. What about it? Well, I'd like to understand the claiming process since I purchased it. Her hands stilled. When she raised her eyes to mine, they held a coldness I'd never seen before. Mom, let's be clear about something. That ticket is in my possession. I'll be claiming the prize. But I bought it with my money. I picked those numbers. Can you prove that? She interrupted. Do you have a receipt? A witness? Because what I have is the actual winning ticket. Rachel, this isn't like you. We always said if we ever won. We were joking around. This is $10 million, Mom. Do you have any idea what that means? What we could do with it? I think I'm entitled to at least. Entitled? She snapped, her voice rising. You've been living in our home for years, eating our food, using our utilities. We've been supporting you. The injustice of her words struck me like a physical blow. I've contributed every month from my Social Security. I cook, clean, care for your children. And we're grateful, she said, not sounding grateful at all. But this is different. I took a deep breath. I need to see the ticket. I believe I wrote my name on the back. Something flashed in Rachel's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps fear. But it was quickly replaced by defiance. You're mistaken. There's nothing written on it. Then let me see it. It's in our safe. And frankly, Mom, I don't appreciate the implication that I would lie about this. From that day forward, life in the house became increasingly strained. Rachel and Philip began speaking in hushed tones whenever I entered a room. The children, picking up on the tension, became withdrawn around me. Tyler, always my little shadow in the garden, suddenly had too much homework to help with the tomatoes. I searched discreetly for the lottery ticket when no one was home, but their bedroom safe remained locked. Meanwhile, changes accelerated around me. Contractors came to measure spaces. Furniture catalogs arrived daily. I overheard Rachel discussing kitchen renovations that would start once everything's settled. One evening, I returned from my weekly physical therapy appointment to find architectural plans spread across the dining table. Rachel, Philip, and an unfamiliar man in a suit were examining them. "This looks perfect," Rachel was saying. "The home theater will be amazing in this space." I approached curiously, only to freeze when I realized they were looking at plans for my bedroom suite. "What's going on?" I asked. The three of them jumped, Rachel quickly gathering the papers. "Mom, we thought you'd be gone another hour." "Clearly. Why are you planning to turn my room into a theater?" The stranger excused himself awkwardly as Rachel's face hardened. "We were going to discuss this with you tonight. We found a lovely senior apartment complex. Much more appropriate for your needs." "My needs? My needs are to be treated with respect in my own family." "This isn't your house, Mom," Philip interjected coldly. "We've been generous, but things are changing now." "Because of my lottery ticket," I said quietly. Rachel's face flushed. "Your lottery ticket? Your lottery ticket? You have some nerve." That night, I heard them arguing in their bedroom. The next morning, neighbors began calling. The local news had announced a winning ticket sold at Carson's Corner Market. Rachel had apparently been talking about their windfall. Susan from across the street brought muffins, congratulating me on my daughter's good fortune. When I explained it was actually my ticket, she looked confused. But Rachel told Lawrence it was her lucky numbers, that she'd been playing them for years. The betrayal cut deeper than I could have imagined. Not only was Rachel stealing my ticket, but she was rewriting the story entirely. By the end of the week, I discovered my belongings being gradually packed into boxes while I was out. Rachel had appointed Madison and Tyler as helpers, turning my displacement into a family project. Finding my nursing awards bubble-wrapped by small hands I'd once held through fevers and nightmares was almost unbearable. "Grandma, are you going away?" Madison asked, her eyes wide with confusion. Before I could answer, Rachel appeared in the doorway. "Grandma's getting her own special place," she said with artificial brightness. "Won't that be nice?" That evening they didn't call me down for dinner. I remained in my partially dismantled room, looking at old photos and wondering how it had come to this. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Tyler stood in the doorway, a sandwich plate in his hands. "Mom said you weren't feeling well," he whispered, placing the plate beside me. "Are you sick, Grandma?" I pulled him close, inhaling the scent of his shampoo.
"No, sweetheart.
Just sad." His small arms tightened around me. "I don't want you to go." "I don't want to go either," I said, my voice breaking. After he left, I sat in the growing darkness, the untouched sandwich beside me, and made a decision. Tomorrow I would confront Rachel one last time. I would demand to see the ticket, confirm my name was there, and reclaim what was rightfully mine. I had no idea how catastrophic that confrontation would be. Saturday dawned bright and clear, the kind of perfect June morning that usually lifted my spirits. I dressed carefully in my most dignified outfit, navy slacks, a cream blouse, sensible shoes. Whatever happened, I wanted to face it with composure. Rachel and Philip were in the kitchen when I came downstairs, their heads bent together over coffee mugs, whispering intensely. They fell silent when I entered. The children were nowhere to be seen. "Where are Madison and Tyler?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "At my mother's," Philip replied, not meeting my eyes. "We thought it best." The implication was clear. Whatever scene they anticipated, they didn't want the children to witness it. "Rachel," I said, squaring my shoulders, "we need to talk about the lottery ticket. I want to see it." She exchanged glances with Philip, who nodded slightly. Setting down her coffee cup with deliberate precision, she stood. "Actually, Mom, we need to talk about your living situation." "Not until we discuss the ticket." "There's nothing to discuss," she said, her voice hardening. "The ticket is mine. The money is mine. And this house is mine. I bought that ticket with my money," I insisted. "I wrote my name on the back. If you just look." "Stop it." Rachel suddenly shouted, slamming her hand on the counter. Just stop. You've been leeching off us for years, and now you think you're entitled to this? You think after all we've done for you, you deserve our windfall. Your windfall. My voice rose despite my determination to stay calm. I've played those same numbers every week for 20 years. I bought that ticket. Prove it. Philip interjected smoothly. Do you have a receipt? Any evidence at all? I faltered. The receipt was probably still in the shopping bag. I'd discarded after unpacking the groceries that day. I don't need a receipt. My name is on the ticket itself. No, it's not, Rachel said flatly. I've checked it thoroughly. Had I imagined writing my name? No, it was my unbreakable habit. Unless she had somehow altered the ticket. You're lying, I said quietly. Something in Rachel snapped. Her face contorted with rage I'd never seen before. Not during her teenage rebellions, not during her wedding planning stresses, never. How dare you call me a liar in my own home? She screamed, advancing toward me. You ungrateful, pathetic old woman. You think I owe you something? You think because you did the bare minimum as a mother, you're entitled to my good fortune. Each word struck like a physical blow. The bare minimum? I'd worked myself to exhaustion for decades to give her every opportunity. Rachel, please. I began, my voice breaking. This isn't you. Think about what you're saying. No, this is exactly me, she hissed. The real me. Not tiptoeing around your feelings anymore. You won't get a penny of my money, you old witch. The venom in her voice, the hatred in her eyes. This couldn't be my daughter. The baby I'd nursed, the child I'd comforted through nightmares, the young woman I'd sent off to college with tears of pride. The moving truck will be here Monday, Philip stated coldly. We've arranged for you to stay at Shady Pines Senior Apartments. Your first month's rent is paid. And if you don't go quietly, Rachel added, we'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing. I stood frozen, unable to comprehend how completely my world had collapsed. I want to say goodbye to the children, I finally managed. They've already said goodbye, Rachel replied dismissively. It's better this way. I looked around the kitchen where I'd prepared countless family meals, taught Madison to make Christmas cookies, helped Tyler with science projects. Every corner held memories now tainted by this betrayal. You won't get away with this, I said quietly. That ticket is legally mine. Rachel laughed, a harsh sound nothing like her normal laugh. Go ahead, call a lawyer. Who do you think they'll believe? The confused old woman with no proof, or us with the actual ticket? I realized then that further argument was pointless. Whatever had transformed my daughter, greed, Philip's influence, or some darkness that had always lurked beneath the surface. She was unrecognizable to me now. Wordlessly, I turned and climbed the stairs to my partially packed room. With shaking hands, I finished gathering my most precious possessions: photo albums, James's wedding ring, the handmade cards from the grandchildren. Everything else seemed meaningless. As I lugged my suitcase down the stairs, Rachel and Philip stood watching impassively, like strangers observing an inconvenient scene. Neither offered to help. At the door I paused, searching for any glimmer of the daughter I'd raised in Rachel's cold eyes. I hope the money brings you joy, I said softly.
I truly do.
Because you've sacrificed something far more valuable to get it. Spare me the melodrama, she replied. Just go. And so I did. I walked away quietly, dignity intact despite the tears streaming down my face. My entire life reduced to one suitcase, rolled along suburban sidewalks where neighbors watched curiously from behind curtains. I checked into the Travelodge on Highway 7, a far cry from the senior apartments they'd mentioned. The room was clean but depressing: beige walls, worn carpet, the faint scent of disinfectant masking years of transient occupancy. Sitting on the edge of the sagging mattress, I finally let myself break down completely. Great heaving sobs racked my body as I grieved. Not for the money, but for the daughter I had lost. For the grandchildren who would grow up thinking I'd abandoned them. For the family that had shattered beyond repair. Hours later, exhausted and hollow, I began methodically organizing what remained of my life. Opening my wallet to assess my financial situation, I noticed something that made my heart skip a beat. In the plastic photo insert opposite my driver's license was a small slip of paper I'd completely forgotten about. The lottery receipt. With trembling fingers, I pulled it out and stared at the date, time, and location printed clearly along with the transaction number. A small spark of hope flickered in my chest. But it wasn't until I turned the receipt over that I found something truly remarkable. In my haste that day, apparently I jotted a quick note to myself. Ticket number 177428 Eleanor Harrison, usual numbers. It wasn't much, but it was something. And maybe, just maybe, it would be enough. Sunday morning brought clarity along with first light. Sitting at the small desk in my motel room, I carefully organized my thoughts and limited resources. I had approximately $3,400 in my checking account, my monthly Social Security payment due in 2 weeks, and a small emergency fund of $5,000 in a separate account Rachel knew nothing about. Not wealth by any measure, but enough to sustain me while I formulated a plan. More valuable than money was the knowledge I held. Rachel believed she had covered all bases, but 3 crucial facts gave me hope. First, I had the receipt proving I'd purchased the ticket. Second, I knew with absolute certainty that I'd written my name on it, a habit ingrained since childhood. And third, I understood something about lottery rules that Rachel apparently didn't. Defacing a ticket by attempting to remove or alter a name was grounds for invalidation. The question was how to proceed without resources or legal representation. I couldn't afford an attorney who could match whatever legal team Rachel and Philip would assemble. My first call was to Doris Mitchell, my oldest friend from nursing school. Explaining my situation through intermittent tears, I asked if I could stay with her temporarily. "Eleanor Harrison, you get yourself over here right now," she said firmly. "The guest room is yours for as long as you need it." My next call was to Gerald at Carson's Corner Market. "Of course I remember you buying that ticket," he confirmed. "You're in here every Friday like clockwork. Same numbers too, your wedding date, Rachel's birthday, and your house number from when she was growing up. Been playing them for years. Would you be willing to provide a statement confirming that?" I asked. "Absolutely. And we have security cameras too. I can probably get the footage from that day if it would help." Hope expanded in my chest as I thanked him profusely. By Monday afternoon, I was settled in Doris's spare bedroom in her cozy bungalow across town. The television news was already reporting on the mysterious $10 million winner, who had yet to come forward. Local reporters had tracked the sale to Carson's Market, but had no further details. "The Lottery Commission gives winners 180 days to claim prizes," Doris remarked as we watched the news segment. "What's your next move?" "I need legal advice," I replied. "But not just any lawyer. Someone who understands lottery law specifically." As if by divine intervention, Doris smiled. "You remember my brother Frank? He retired from his practice 5 years ago, but he handled 2 lottery disputes during his career. Let me call him." Frank Mitchell arrived for dinner that evening, a tall, distinguished man with kind eyes and a methodical mind. After hearing my story, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled thoughtfully. "You've got 3 pieces of evidence in your favor," he said. "The receipt, the store owner's testimony, and your consistent playing history. The challenge is the ticket itself. If your name is still visible, even partially, you have an excellent case." "And if Rachel altered or removed it somehow?" I asked anxiously. "That's actually better for you," he replied. "Tampering with a lottery ticket is illegal. They're closely examined under special lights during the claiming process. Any alteration would be detected immediately and would invalidate her claim entirely. So what should I do? Confront her again? Go to the police?" Frank shook his head.
No confrontaschen.
"In fact, I recommend you do nothing directly for now." "Nothing?" Doris and I exclaimed simultaneously. "The most strategic approach is to wait until Rachel attempts to claim the prize. The Lottery Commission has strict protocols for large jackpots, including verification processes specifically designed to prevent fraud. Let her walk into that situation unprepared." "But how will they know to question her claim?" I asked. "That's where I come in," Frank smiled. "I still have contacts at the commission. I can ensure they're aware that ownership of this particular ticket is disputed, without revealing all our evidence. They'll scrutinize the claim much more carefully. And I should just wait? Not entirely. We'll use this time to build your case. We need to document your history of playing these specific numbers, gather statements from people who knew about your weekly ritual, obtain the security footage from the store. The stronger our evidence, the better position you'll be in when the time comes. Over the next few days, Frank worked tirelessly on my behalf, all without charging a fee, insisting this was a retirement project to keep his mind sharp. We assembled a compelling dossier. Statements from neighbors who'd seen me buy tickets weekly, bank records showing my Friday withdrawals coinciding with ticket purchases, even Madison's school project from 2 years earlier, where she'd written about Grandma's lucky numbers. Meanwhile, Rachel began making public appearances, giving interviews about her lottery win, though she hadn't yet submitted the official claim. She described elaborate plans for the money: a vacation home in Maui, private school for the children, charitable donations that would ensure her name on hospital wings and university buildings. "We've always believed in giving back," she told one reporter, Philip nodding solemnly beside her. "This blessing will allow us to help so many people." No mention of me. No acknowledgement of where the winning numbers came from. In her revised history, Rachel had chosen the numbers herself, played them faithfully for years, and manifested this good fortune through positive thinking. Each interview, each lie cut deeply. But I remained quiet, following Frank's advice, building my case methodically while Rachel basked in premature celebration. 1 week after my expulsion from their home, I received a text message from Tyler sent from his tablet. "Grandma, where are you? Mom says you moved to Florida, but I don't believe her." I responded carefully, aware that Rachel might see his messages. "I'm staying with a friend for now, sweetheart. Don't worry about me. I love you and Madison very much." His reply came instantly. "Mom threw away your cookies recipe book. I rescued it from the trash. Should I keep it safe for you?" Tears sprang to my eyes. Even at 10 years old, Tyler sensed the wrongness in what was happening. "Yes, please keep it safe. It will be our secret for now." That simple exchange strengthened my resolve. This wasn't just about money or justice anymore. It was about showing my grandchildren that truth matters, that family bonds shouldn't be discarded for material gain, that consequences follow actions. According to Frank's Lottery Commission contact, Rachel had scheduled an appointment to submit her claim the following Monday. The pieces were falling into place. Now we just needed to wait for Rachel to walk into the trap of her own making. "Are you ready for this?" Frank asked as we finalized our strategy over Sunday dinner at Doris's. "Once things are set in motion, it could get ugly. Rachel and Philip won't go down without a fight." I thought about everything that had transpired: the betrayal, the cruel words, the erasure of decades of sacrifice and love. I thought about Tyler secretly saving my recipe book, about Madison wondering where I'd gone. I thought about the values I'd tried to instill in Rachel that had been so thoroughly abandoned. "I'm ready," I said firmly. "Not for revenge, but for justice. And to show my grandchildren that some things are more important than money." Little did I know just how dramatic the confrontation would be. Monday morning dawned bright and clear. I dressed carefully in a simple blue dress I'd worn to church for years. Nothing flashy, just dignified and appropriate. Doris insisted on styling my hair and applying a touch of makeup. "You look like yourself," she said approvingly as I stood before her hallway mirror. Strong, dignified, and absolutely in the right. Frank arrived promptly at 9 a.m., wearing a crisp gray suit and carrying a leather briefcase containing our carefully assembled evidence. His former paralegal, Janet, had volunteered to accompany us as an additional witness. The three of us made an unlikely team: 2 retirees and a grandmother fighting for justice against wealth and entitlement. "Remember the plan," Frank reminded me as we drove toward the Minnesota State Lottery headquarters in Roseville. "We don't confront Rachel directly. We speak only to lottery officials. Stay calm regardless of what she says or does." I nodded, though butterflies swarmed in my stomach. The building loomed ahead, a modern structure of glass and steel where lives could change in an instant. Today, it would be the stage for a confrontation I never could have imagined having with my own daughter. We deliberately arrived early at 10:15 a.m. Rachel's appointment was scheduled for 11 a.m. This gave Frank time to meet privately with Thomas Whitaker, the lottery's security director and Frank's former client. I waited in the lobby with Doris and Janet, trying to calm my racing heart. At precisely 10:55 a.m., a gleaming black Mercedes pulled into a parking space near the entrance. Rachel emerged from the passenger side, looking like a movie star in an expensive suit and designer sunglasses. Philip followed, carrying a leather portfolio that presumably contained the ticket. They walked confidently toward the entrance, completely unaware of what awaited them. I ducked my head as they passed through the lobby, but they were too absorbed in their impending windfall to notice me sitting quietly in the corner. Minutes later, Frank returned, giving me a subtle thumbs up. The security director had been fully briefed and was prepared for the situation. At 11:10 a.m., a staff member approached us. "Ms. Harrison? Director Whitaker would like you to join the meeting in conference room B." This was it. Taking a deep breath, I stood, smoothed my dress, and followed her down a hallway, Frank at my side. Doris squeezed my hand before we left, whispering, "You've got this, Eleanor." The conference room door opened to reveal a scene I'll never forget. Rachel and Philip sat on one side of a large table, facing 3 lottery officials. Rachel was in mid-sentence, her hand gesturing animatedly as she described some grand plan for her winnings. She froze when she saw me, her mouth hanging open in shock. "What is this doing here?" she demanded, recovering quickly and turning to Director Whitaker. "Mrs. Harrison has made a claim regarding the ownership of the winning ticket you've presented," he replied calmly. "As per our protocols, we investigate all such claims before processing large jackpots." "This is ridiculous," Philip interjected. "She's just a bitter old woman who can't stand to see us succeed." I remained silent, allowing Frank to speak as we had planned. "My client has substantial evidence proving she purchased the winning ticket, including the original receipt, security camera footage from the store, and documentation of her history playing these specific numbers for over 20 years. Rachel's face flushed crimson. "That doesn't prove anything. The ticket is in my possession." "May I see the ticket, please?" Director Whitaker asked politely. With obvious reluctance, Philip removed the ticket from his portfolio and handed it to the director, who placed it carefully into a clear plastic sleeve. He then put on gloves and examined it under a special light he retrieved from a cabinet. The room fell silent as he studied it intently. After what seemed like eternity, he looked up, his expression grave. "There appears to be evidence of tampering with this ticket," he announced. "Specifically, an attempt to remove something written on the back." Rachel paled visibly. "That's not true. It was like that when I bought it." "You previously stated you've been playing these numbers regularly," noted a female lottery official, consulting her notes. "Now you're saying you purchased this specific ticket?" Rachel stammered, contradicting her earlier statements. Meanwhile, Director Whitaker continued examining the ticket under different specialized lights. "There are traces of ink that have been partially removed," he reported. "Under UV light, I can make out portions of what appears to be a signature. The first letter looks like an..." My heart leapt. My name was still there, however faintly. "That proves nothing," Philip nearly shouted. "This is outrageous. We'll sue." Frank calmly opened his briefcase and removed our evidence file. "My client has the receipt for this specific ticket purchase, with the transaction number matching the one on the ticket. She also has a contemporaneous note recording her purchase and identifying the ticket as hers. Furthermore, we have the store owner's sworn statement that Mrs. Harrison purchased this ticket, as she has done every Friday for years." He laid each piece of evidence on the table methodically. Rachel's eyes darted from document to document, her confident facade crumbling. "Furthermore," Frank continued, "attempting to alter a lottery ticket is a criminal offense under Minnesota state law." "Are you accusing us of criminal behavior?" Philip blustered, but the uncertainty in his voice was evident. "We're simply presenting facts," Frank replied evenly. Director Whitaker examined our evidence carefully, then conferred quietly with his colleagues. Finally, he addressed the room. "Based on the evidence presented and our preliminary examination of the ticket, we are suspending this claim pending a full investigation. No prize will be awarded until ownership is conclusively determined." "You can't do this," Rachel cried, jumping to her feet. "That money is over." "Mrs. Harrison," the director continued, ignoring Rachel's outburst, Our forensic team will need to examine the ticket more thoroughly. The process may take several weeks. I nodded, relief washing over me. I understand. Thank you for your thoroughness. As we prepared to leave, Rachel suddenly lunged toward me, her face contorted with rage. You've ruined everything. You couldn't stand to see me happy, could you? Always controlling, always judging. Security personnel moved quickly to restrain her as she continued shouting accusations and obscenities. Philip tried to pull her back, hissing, Rachel, stop. You're making things worse. I stood perfectly still amid the chaos, meeting my daughter's furious gaze with sadness rather than anger. I'm sorry it came to this, I said quietly. I truly am. The investigation took 3 weeks. The forensic analysis confirmed what I'd known all along. My name had been partially erased from the ticket using a chemical solution. The security footage from Carson's Market clearly showed me purchasing the ticket. My bank records confirmed the withdrawal of cash that same day. The final decision arrived by certified letter on a Tuesday morning. The Lottery Commission had determined I was the rightful owner of the winning ticket and would be awarded the full $10 million prize. Additionally, the letter noted that evidence of ticket tampering had been referred to the county prosecutor's office for potential criminal charges. I called Frank immediately. They're pressing charges? I never wanted that. It's not your decision, Eleanor, he explained gently. Lottery fraud is a serious offense. The commission is required by law to report it. The news of the commission's decision broke quickly. Local stations carried the story of the lottery justice. The wronged grandmother vindicated against her greedy daughter. Reporters camped outside Doris's house, hoping for interviews I consistently declined. Rachel and Philip hired a high-powered attorney who released a statement claiming misunderstandings within a family under stress and requesting privacy. But the damage to their reputation was already done. Philip's firm placed him on administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Their country club friends distanced themselves quickly. Through Tyler's occasional secret text messages, I learned that things were tense at home. Mom cries a lot, he wrote. Dad yells. They think I'm playing games, but I'm talking to you. Are you and Madison okay? I asked, concerned. We're okay. Madison asks about you every night. When are you coming back? That question broke my heart. I don't know, sweetheart. But I love you both very much. 2 days after the commission's decision, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mom. Rachel's voice was small, tearful. Please don't hang up. I remained silent, waiting. I don't know what to say. Sorry doesn't begin to cover it. No, I agreed. It doesn't. The prosecutor is offering a deal, she continued. No jail time if we pay restitution and court costs. Philip will probably lose his job anyway. Everything's falling apart. Part of me, a small hurt part, wanted to say good, wanted her to suffer as I had suffered. But that wasn't who I was, who I'd raised her to be. What do you need, Rachel? I asked simply. A pause then. I don't deserve anything from you. But the kids miss you terribly. And I need my mother. I need to understand how I became someone who could do what I did. It wasn't a full apology. It wasn't a complete recognition of the harm she'd caused. But it was a start. A crack in the wall of entitlement and greed that had consumed her. We have a lot to work through, I said finally. It won't be quick or easy. I know, she whispered. But is it possible? Can you ever forgive me? I thought about Tyler saving my recipe book, about Madison asking for me each night. I thought about the scared 11-year-old girl Rachel had once been when her father died, and how we'd face the world together then. Possible. I repeated. Yes, but we'll need help. Professional help. And things will never be exactly as they were before. I understand, she said softly. Thank you for not hanging up. It was the smallest of beginnings, but sometimes that's all you need. A single moment of truth from which to rebuild. The actual claiming of the lottery prize happened with little fanfare. I requested no press conference, no oversized check, no publicity. Frank arranged for a trusted financial advisor and an estate attorney to help manage the windfall responsibly. After taxes, the lump sum payment amounted to just over $6 million. A fortune beyond anything I'd ever imagined possessing. My first decision surprised everyone except Doris, who knew me better than anyone. I'm not touching a penny until the situation with Rachel and Philip is resolved, I announced during a meeting with my newly assembled financial team. That's very generous, Mrs. Harrison, my financial advisor Jerome commented carefully, but legally, you're under no obligation to help them. This isn't about obligation, I explained. It's about doing what's right for my grandchildren and hopefully helping Rachel find her way back to the person I raised her to be. The criminal charges against Rachel and Philip were eventually reduced to a misdemeanor with community service and financial penalties, thanks partly to my request to the prosecutor for leniency. The court costs and legal fees had depleted their savings considerably. Philip's firm offered him the option to resign rather than face termination, a small mercy that preserved his future employment prospects. Through it all, I maintained boundaries. Our interactions happened initially in the neutral territory of Frank's office, then gradually shifted to supervised visits with the grandchildren at parks and restaurants. Rachel attended therapy sessions twice weekly. Not as a court requirement, but of her own volition. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, she told me during one of our carefully structured conversations. The therapist says it's about more than just money. It's about unresolved feelings, fears of abandonment, patterns I didn't even know existed. I nodded, willing to listen but still guarded. I'm glad you're getting help. 3 months after claiming the prize, I finally made decisions about the money. First, I purchased a comfortable 3-bedroom house in the same school district as the grandchildren. Modest by lottery winner standards but perfect for my needs. Second, I established education trusts for Tyler and Madison that would fund their schooling from kindergarten through graduate studies, if they chose to pursue them. Most importantly, I created the Second Chance Foundation, dedicated to helping senior citizens facing housing insecurity and family estrangement. The foundation provided emergency housing assistance, legal aid, counseling services, and community reintegration programs. A significant portion of my winnings went into an endowment ensuring the foundation would continue operating long after I was gone. You could have bought a mansion, traveled the world, lived in luxury, Doris remarked as we toured the foundation's newly leased offices. Instead, you're turning your pain into purpose. The best revenge is living well, I replied with a smile. But my definition of living well includes helping others. Always has. 6 months after the lottery incident, Rachel and Philip's financial situation reached a crisis point. Their mortgage was underwater after they'd taken equity loans to pay legal fees. Philip had found new employment, but at a significantly lower salary. They were discussing selling their house and moving to a smaller home. A humbling prospect for a couple who had once planned to buy a vacation property in Maui. During one of our now regular Sunday brunches with the grandchildren, Rachel tentatively broached the subject. We're putting the house on the market next week, she said, trying to maintain her composure as the kids played in the restaurant's adjoining playground area. We found a 3-bedroom ranch house closer to the children's school. It's an adjustment, but we'll manage. I listened without commenting immediately, assessing whether this was a genuine moment of growth or a subtle attempt to solicit help. The kids are concerned about changing schools, she continued, but we can't afford the mortgage anymore. Not with the legal bills and everything else. I stirred my coffee thoughtfully. The education trusts I established for Tyler and Madison would cover private school tuition if that's a concern. That's generous, but it's not just school. It's their friends, their community. I considered my next words carefully. I have a proposition for you and Philip. Not a gift, but an opportunity. Rachel looked up, cautious hope in her eyes. The foundation I established needs administrative help, someone to coordinate programs, manage schedules, liaise with service providers. It's demanding work requiring intelligence and organizational skills. The salary would help with your financial situation, though it's not charity level. You'd earn every penny. You'd trust me to work for your foundation? After everything, trust needs to be rebuilt, I said frankly. This would be a step in that process. Philip could contribute his financial expertise on our investment committee, if he's interested. Part-time volunteer basis to start. Her eyes filled with tears. Why would you do this for us? Not for you, I corrected gently. For us. For this family that broke apart and needs healing. For Tyler and Madison, who deserve to see adults working through difficult situations with grace. And maybe a little bit for myself too, to know that something positive can emerge from our darkest moment. Rachel wiped her eyes. I don't deserve a second chance. None of us deserve the blessings we receive in life, I replied. That's why they're called blessings, not payments. The question is what we do with them. Over the following year, Rachel proved herself a capable and eventually exceptional foundation administrator. The work changed her in subtle ways. Increased empathy, greater patience, genuine gratitude for what she had rather than resentment for what she'd lost. Philip's volunteer financial advice gradually expanded to a part-time consulting role that leveraged his expertise while allowing him to rebuild his professional reputation. The grandchildren flourished with the stability of our reconciled family. I maintained my separate household but hosted Sunday dinners and holiday gatherings. My relationship with Rachel evolved into something new. Not the uncomplicated mother-daughter bond of earlier years, but something more nuanced, built on hard-earned respect and careful honesty. 2 years after the lottery incident, on my 72nd birthday, Rachel presented me with a handmade album. Inside were photographs, cards, and mementos spanning decades of our lives together. I've been working on this for months, she explained as I turned the pages. It helped me remember who we were before money almost destroyed us. The final page held a recent family photo. All of us at Tyler's middle school graduation. Below it, Rachel had written, "The real jackpot was never about money. It was about second chances and the mother who taught me it's never too late to become a better person." The lottery millions changed my external circumstances, but the true transformation happened in how we rebuilt what had been broken. I learned that justice doesn't always require punishment, that forgiveness doesn't erase consequences, and that love, real, enduring love, is both more fragile and more resilient than I ever imagined. As for the money, it's just money. The real wealth is sitting around my dinner table each Sunday, imperfect people working imperfectly toward healing. Some wounds never completely close, but they can become badges of honor rather than sources of pain. My name is Eleanor Harrison. I won the lottery twice in my life. Once with a ticket purchased at Carson's Corner Market, and once when I discovered that even shattered relationships can be rebuilt, differently but perhaps more beautifully than before. What about you? Have you ever had to rebuild something you thought was permanently broken? Has money ever threatened to destroy a relationship in your life? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this journey of betrayal, justice, and reconciliation touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that second chances are possible, even after the deepest betrayals. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, in life's lottery, the most valuable winnings aren't measured in dollars, but in the wisdom we gain along the way.